Good morning and welcome to the annual Hearts Men's Wrestling Media Day. I'm your host, Tony Hager with IA Wrestle. For our next interview, we are joined by Dickinson State head coach Justin Slack and Cale Corley. Welcome to Media Day. Wrestling's around the corner. Schedule is it's creeping up, right? I mean, you guys have got your daily schedule for practices, but things just seem to go up a notch, right? When practices are getting in preparation for a duel, for a tournament, getting down to weight. So I got to imagine that vibes are pretty high in the room with anticipation.
Yeah, it's go time. It's go time. We've been going, and now yeah, as we keep building up to that. Our first competition is December 2nd, that first weekend in December there. So we're creeping up on it, and like you said, when now that we're starting to get on the mat, it just time flies. The next thing you know, it'll be January.
Coach, you got Cale next to you, Cale Corley, and junior for you guys, and we ask the coaches and programs to have someone next side that represents your guys' program. Why Cale? What does he mean to your guys' your staff, your program?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kale's a good kid and works hard, and there's no complaints out of Kale, and he's made some leaps and bounds in the last couple of years, and really kind of grown, and he's knocking on the door and stuff, um, uh, and so we're excited. Kale's kind of moved into some leadership position and doing some of those things as well, and leads by example, and does a great job as a student and as an athlete. So uh, I mean, I feel pretty fortunate in the position I'm in. Um, if you'd asked me, like, hey, so you can't have Kale, who do you want? Well, I guess I'll just drag my finger down the roster line and I'll stop. You tell me when, you know. Um, I feel very fortunate in that I feel really good about the roster and the guys and how they would represent Dickinson State Wrestling and how they would represent themselves. So um, no, no caveat to Kale. Not saying Kale's second to the rest, but in that same sense, I feel really good about all of our guys. So if you'd ask me like, okay, so I'm gonna take Kale away, he's not an option. Who's number two? I'll just keep calling
Yeah,
him off the roster. So
that's a good problem to have, right, Coach?
yeah, I feel really good about it.
So Kale, I mean, as you're a junior now, going to be 157 pounds this year, and hearing Coach, saying that you're a leader, right? You're leading the program. You've got guys underneath you that go to battle with you, right? That's important. But you're one of the many leaders on this program. When you came to Dickinson State, was that a role that you anticipated that you would be in? Were you that guy in high school, or have you just it just kind of has happened naturally as a leader here in the program?
It's just kind of happened naturally. In high school, I was always kind of a leader. And at first, I mean, you had to make your place to be able to become a leader here, and you got to work up to it. But it just kind of came naturally. And just through all the hard work, I feel like everyone kind of just self elects, and it puts you where you want to be if you put in the work.
What are you majoring in?
I'm majoring in business administration with a coaching minor.
Okay. So being next to coach and seeing the things that happen, in order to be a coach at this level, you've also have to have a business mind at the end of the day. You can't just coach on the mat. There's a whole process. So what, makes Dickinson State successful to have a squad, to have a good incoming, um, incoming freshman, right? So, learning next side to coach, I'm sure is important to you. Um, what do you think has been the biggest growth for you since you've stepped on campus, either on the mat or, professionally as you look, 2 years from now when you're going to go out into the workplace?
Yeah, I'd say just probably the whole college experience itself, because you come in, you're on your own after that point. You don't have your parents looking after you. You gotta kind of figure things out yourself, and then on the mat, just learning to embrace the suck and enjoy the grind and enjoy the process of getting better, knowing it's going to be hard. Just pushing through it and enjoying the grind, enjoying the process, and being thankful for opportunities you're presented.
And coach, this one's for you. Coach, I actually own ND Wrestle up there as well. And as someone that is, trying to grow wrestling in that community or in that state, right? Trying to get wrestlers out at a young age and grow to hopefully guys that, be able to come to your program. Where have you just kind of seen the sport going here the last 5 years in your specific state?
Well, can I just back you up real quick and come to Kale
Yeah.
here 1 second? An interesting just factoid about Kale. I think it's really interesting to have Kale here in his third year. Kale's original intention was to be here for 2. Kale was going to be a 2-year associate degree guy, and I think with no salesmanship by coaching staff, here Kale is. I think it was, which is a great thing and something I guess I want to take a little pride in, and not like personal pride in, but program pride in the fact that I think it was mid-January last year, and I got the email saying Kale Merrill has changed his major, from advisor, and I was like, oh, so Kale's not done after this year, even though he's qualified for graduation. So that's just kind of another feather in the program's hat, I guess. I like that the kid wanted to keep getting his education and create opportunities for himself and be a part of the program. As far as where the sport's going in the last 5 years, oh man, if you can keep up within 6 months of new and changing technique and new and changing processes as far as opportunities for training and opportunities for um, technical growth in the sport and all of that, kudos to you, because it is evolving and advancing at a very high rate. You have to be on the cutting edge, and I would say that's probably the biggest challenge, is just staying up with that. I think another big challenge is we run into, as we call kids and we're doing the recruiting process, we have a pretty, there's just a lot. It is, and maybe I view it just in myself, and I might be a little short sighted in this, that when I was a kid and I came to school, and that was a long time ago, um, man, there wasn't a ton of kids that, it was like if you were wrestling, you wanted to wrestle in college. It seems like we call a lot of kids and high school kids that, and not all of them want to go to the next level, because they're aware of the work. It's like, hey, becoming aware of how much work it takes to wrestle in college is like out there. When I came in, I had no idea how much work it was going to be. It was
Yeah.
like, I just want to do it. Now it's like everybody knows you're gonna get your tail beat in a little bit, and you're gonna get beat up a little bit. And you're gonna work hard. Now everybody knows that, so that makes it some challenges. And then as the sport advances and grows technically and physically and all those things, it's an ever evolving, changing machine and beast.
Absolutely. And down to the facilities, not only coaching, but facilities, having having top-notch facilities for when the recruits do come in on campus. It's always a challenge, but obviously it's a challenge that you're willing to embrace, right? And Kale, I know that you said from Montana, and coach, you guys head
Wyoming.
west. Wyoming?
Yep.
Sorry, Wyoming. But coach, you're taking a couple trips to Montana. Sorry.
Yep.
To Montana here, Montana State Northern and Providence.
No,
And
we're not going to Providence this year. We're going to the Doan tournament.
got it. Doan is Nebraska.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I apologize. No, you're all right. We are going to see Providence in Sydney. We're just not going all the way to Great Falls for their event. We're going, normally in the past, we've gone to their tournament and dual event. So, but we're just going to dual Providence in Sydney, Montana at a local high school this year. So,
Yeah. I mean, those are tough duels, right? Tough matchups. And leading up to that, and the heart, all right, you guys this is a very tough conference. So to wrestle those type of programs, and you're talking to recruits, what what is that pitch to that athlete of, hey, you're gonna put you in the fire, right? We're gonna prepare you all season with our schedule, strength of schedule, to get ready for the national tournament. And you just don't get that outside of the Heart, right? Of a lot of these conferences, the Heart is really a tough conference.
Yeah, I would say as far as like the Heart, I mean, you're gonna if you're going to talk just NAI, you're going to boil it down to like the Heart and the Cascade and those kind of things, and like those are all going to be top three conferences year in year out, and here we sit sandwiched in the middle of them. So when we get out of conference duels, it's going to be against a great conference. When we get in conference duels and in conference tournaments, it's going to be against one of the best conferences out there. And then on top of it too, we get a lot of opportunities to wrestle some D2 schools that are highly competitive as well. So one of the benefits there is like, hey, if you're doing well, you're going to make some noise. If you get through at our qualifier and you get to the national tournament, you're going to make some noise. You're not just there to punch a ticket and show up and make weight. You are going to make noise, and you're going to create some opportunities. And so that's a big part of it in that recruiting process. It does pose its challenge. The Heart's got some great schools and very respectful of those schools and the facilities and the opportunities that those schools have. And those schools sit in like the mecca of some great wrestling opportunities in the Midwest, down there in the Iowa and the Kansas and the Missouri and Nebraska areas and all those things. Like they're in the middle of it.
Yep.
So yeah, other than being able to compete in a conference in our backyard, this is where we want to be. Definitely where we want to be. I wouldn't want it to be any other way. And if administration or an athletic director would want us to go in a different direction, they'd have a pretty hard sell to me.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Coach and Kale, I appreciate you guys taking just a quick moment out of your guys' schedule just to talk a little bit about your guys' program. And the duels are around the corner, and we look forward to seeing what team you guys put on the mat.
Yeah, we're excited.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.